Hi and welcome. So today I thought it'd be interesting to share a bit about the transformational journey of going from emotionally eating to resolving your emotional eating. And I wanted to do this with a case study. So if you're new here, welcome. My name is Michelle. I'm a certified holistic nutritionist specializing in emotional eating. So I wanted to share this case study because it might be good for you to actually maybe hear a different journey about how you can navigate and move through your emotional eating and resolve it, and that it is possible to resolve it. And I know this can be daunting because if you've tried so many solutions, it can be hard to keep moving forward and thinking that there is actually something that's going to help you. But of course, if you're in that pain of this pattern, you probably are looking for something else. And how do you know that something's going to work? You need to really understand the process, right? And so I want to share with you a client of mine, L.B., and her journey was really interesting. And so I'm going to share her journey with you and you can see if it resonates. And that'll help you see that it's so possible for you to get to the other side and resolve your emotional eating. So my client, L.B., when she first came to me, she was sort of at her rope's end of her emotional eating. So the last thing she had tried was doctor-assisted psychedelics. And so this is a pretty intense mode of trying to deal with addiction and trauma. And she didn't have the results she wanted. There was some sort of result, but she was still in her emotional eating pattern. It's just that the food didn't taste the same. And so before this, she was, this constant yo-yo dieter for about 20, 30 years. She was in this emotional eating cycle probably since she was a teenager, so for several decades. And she just felt really out of control with food. And in her body, the thoughts of food were so obsessive. And so when she came to me, she was just like, I need to really do this. She had watched my masterclass. She really resonated with what I had to say, and she knew she needed to do something completely different and to shift. And so she was committed. So we had a clarity call. She spoke to me and she was committed. She signed up right away. And so her journey was a 12-week journey. She worked with me privately. And so what happened through that journey was really interesting and it was really powerful. So I guide her like I guide most of my clients through the 3 phases of the emotional eating evolution program. And so she has access to the on-demand course, the membership site. So there are lessons that you implement weekly, and we start moving through true nourishment as the first phase. And this is where she started gathering information. So she started looking at how she was nourishing her body. So her routine throughout the day, the types of meals she was choosing. And so we optimized that so it was really digesting well. We were looking at then when she was triggered into emotional eating. So the different days of the week that all of a sudden she'd be like, I want to eat this. I feel like I need to eat this now. And it became really clear because as we were nourishing her body, it was really obvious when she was in this emotional eating pattern. And so I remember sort of early on in our time together, she had this moment where she was emotionally eating and she thought, maybe I'm tired, maybe I'm this. And then as we worked with that trigger, it was actually about a disagreement she had with her partner from a few days before. So she kept avoiding what was going on and it built up, and that triggered her into more emotional eating. So the emotional eating might not show up instantly. It might not be the thing that day, but it might be building up. So if you don't deal with where it's really triggered, it builds up over the other days and it starts slowly, you use your willpower to keep it at bay, and then it sort of opens up this can of worms. And so what we did as she's nourishing her body, we moved into, okay, we've got the trigger, let's work with the trigger. And we did the somatic meditations with psychotherapy tools. We went deeper into the root of what was going on for her. And so it was really interesting. These roots, they went into different ages, sometimes as, when she was very young, a teenager, different stages of her life where these emotions got stuck. And they were sort of looping and sort of creating this block in her. And so we resolved them at the root, and we met her true needs, because those emotions were actually triggering her to go towards food just to comfort herself, because she didn't know how to really move through them. And so I just want to add in here, even though she did a lot of work and she did psychedelics and she did remove some trauma, it wasn't specific to her emotional eating. It was just in general, things were happening. And so when I work with clients, we're just super specific about the emotional eating triggers, because we have trauma from so many things, and it might not always show up with the food choices or the emotional eating pattern. We have other coping mechanisms, but my program is specific about the emotional eating pattern, because it impacts us with our food choices and what we're putting into our body. And then once we learn to shift that, we can sort of shift other areas. And so this is specific around the emotional eating triggers. And so we worked through them. And then after our first session, which is what I see with a lot of clients, their patterns start shifting. They actually start not obsessing about food. So she was still obsessing about food during the day, but she realized she wasn't hungry. And so that obsession around food stopped, because that obsession around food, that constant voice in our head, is just kind of distracting us from what's going on under the surface, what's actually being triggered. And so that voice just keeps us out of the pain, because our ego that wants to protect us, keep us safe, thinks that if we ever went into what was really going on, something would go wrong. We wouldn't be safe. We would not be able to handle it. And so it just distracts us with these thoughts all day, this obsession. But what we're learning inside of the Emotional Eating Evolution program is a safe way to be with and process what is going on, what's being triggered. And when we do the somatic meditations, we create a way that feels safe in the body, it's resourced, and we create that capacity. And what I want to say is that if we had parents that knew how to regulate our emotions and help us move through them when we were younger, we would have learned this. But now we have to learn this. And so my client, she had come from a family where her mother had an addiction, and so she was numbing out on her own emotions and what was going on. And so, of course, how could she teach her daughter that? And so she had to now learn this. And she's a very ambitious woman. She's as a VP of a company. She's not, unable to be successful, but she couldn't really move through this. There's only so much our willpower can do. And so we create this space where it's safe, and we are moving gently and compassionately through resolving what happened. We are processing it, integrating it at a body level where we store trauma. So whatever is left unresolved is a trauma, whether it's a big or small emotional trauma. It doesn't have to be the big things. We move through it and we clear it out from the root, and then we can create a new way forward, a more powerful way forward that actually meets our true needs. So we're not going to food to soothe ourselves. So we're really resolving it at this root level. And so this is what I did with my client. And so as we were moving through the program, other sort of things came up too around body image and wanting to lose weight quickly. And so that was another sort of a trigger and distraction from what was really going on under the surface. And when we resolved that, she started to feel at ease in her body. She started to feel just confident where she is. And she was confident that if she kept nurturing and nourishing her body, with foods that felt good, making the right choices, having this body acceptance, and resolving those deeper emotional root issues, she was going to get to her healthy. And it didn't have a timeline. And so that allowed her body to relax and remain calm. And it just shifted her into this new way of being. So she's not pushing and punishing and reaching for that external acceptance and validation. She has that internally. And so as she moves forward in her journey, she's making all her choices from that place, not because she has to get somewhere, but because she actually wants her body to feel good, and she wants to nourish it well. She wants to take care of it. She wants to honor it. And it was really beautiful. She got in touch with sort of her highest self and really shifted the way she was looking at things. And this is something that didn't come out of all of the other things she was trying, even though she went on these psychedelics and, you know, you're doing this other work and rewiring your brain in a different way. It wasn't specific to her patterns. And so this is why everything is needed. Everything in the program is set up that you are learning how to truly nourish your body and connect with it. You're learning how to have that body acceptance and connect with it. And you're learning how to move through those emotions. And so when we do the deeper somatic work, we have those frameworks in place that are going to allow you to move forward really powerfully. And so at the end of the program, she really just had a heartfelt thank you, and that she was really grateful for my guidance to help her shift into this new way of being, that she felt calm around food. She felt calm in her body. She felt present and she felt good in her body and around food, which is the goal of the program. So I was so happy to see that and to see her transformation and for her to show up each time to each session and do the work. So, you know, I'm there guiding my clients, but they're showing up, doing the work, committing, and helping themselves move through this. So it's co-creative. So that is how she moves through her emotional eating pattern, how she resolved it at this deeper level. Of course, the nitty-gritty is inside of the emotional eating evolution program. So if you are feeling called and you would love to resolve your emotional eating and you want that support, that guidance, that accountability, and a step-by-step process, then I'd love to invite you to find out more about the emotional eating evolution program. I'll leave the link below. And if you have any questions about what I shared with you today, please let me know. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to sharing more with you, and I hope you have a great day.